Welcome to week one learning and action session. Today it's going to be a little bit of review of the rest of the program and a lot of diving into you, but we'll get into that in a minute. So first, I just want to say the same thing I have said before, but I want to reiterate that congratulations, you've made a choice to change your life. You are here to learn my proven method to understanding what you want in a career, get the job that you want now, and have a strategy that you can use every single time that you decide to look for a job. And today we're going to go through the whole program overview and what you can expect from the Women's Career Blueprint and how I help you reach your goals.
Mhm.
And so, first, I just want to let you know I'm here alongside you to help you identify your professional goals and achieve them. And if you allow it, if you follow my recommendations, if you do the homework, you're going to be able to use these strategies now and every single time that you're ready to seek new employment in the future. Up, my computer's being funny. Okay. And so I'm going to help you position your experience to land the job that you want now. We're going to grow an army of people looking to help you find the exact perfect job for you right now and in the future. You're going to learn how to write a resume, a cover letter, and a LinkedIn profile to communicate exactly how amazing you are and all of the skills that you bring to the table. You're going to interview to leave a lasting impression. And finally, maybe most importantly, you're going to learn how to negotiate for every penny that you are worth. And I'm sure you are excited to hear that.
Yes.
Um, so the overall program is broken down into 6 weeks. And don't worry if some of these things sound like a lot of material right now, but we're going to get through all of it, and we're going to enable you to get through all this material. And if there's a week that we don't get to it, we'll pick it up in the following week. But overall, week one is the study of you. At the end of the day, confidence is what's going to get you a job. And confidence comes from knowing your accomplishments, actually knowing what you're good at, what you've done in your life. Week two, we're going to focus on research skills, identifying places that you might want to work happily, the strategy that there is in applying. And surprisingly, those SAT critical reading skills are going to come back around and be valuable as we really dive into reading and understanding job postings and what matters and doesn't matter there. Week three is going to be all about a personal marketing material revamp. Looking at your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, the letters that you use to communicate with people. All of that is going to be dived into in week three. Technical difficulties. Week four is where we're going to get into what I call strategic networking, or growing your army of job finders. Looking at hot, warm, cold networking and really getting clear on the strategy, not just the widest net we can possibly throw and hoping somebody listens and helps us. Week five is affectionately called give them what they want, get what you want. Learning how to ace the interview and ask for exactly what you want and need in a job, not just financially, but also personally. And then ultimately, week six is a recap. It's an opportunity to pick up anything that we may have passed over. It's an opportunity to develop a very clear day-to-day strategy for success now and for long-term success. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they are job searching is stopping. And I know that sounds crazy because job searching is really stressful, but if you take these strategies that we're going to talk about and are constantly revamping them and working them, making true, genuine connections, not just meeting people in passing, updating your resume every time there's an opportunity so that when you do come to look for a job, it's not this, oh my gosh, panic moment. It's going to make everything moving forward that much easier. And just a couple of matters of housekeeping. Every Tuesday, there's going to be a new learning module released. For right now, that's 7:30 on Tuesdays, Eastern Standard Time. And there will be a Q&A live session Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make that Q&A for any reason, feel free to send questions by 5 p.m. either in the Facebook group or by email. And if you have any questions, you can just bring those with you on those calls. Make sure that if you are not already in the Facebook group for current clients, which is the Women's Career Blueprint group, you get in there, just request to join or let me know if you're not in there. If your Facebook name is drastically different than your regular name, just give me a heads up. And try to remember to put all questions pertaining to content in this course in the Women's Career Blueprint course Facebook group rather than the Women's Career Accelerator group. That's my public group where I do try to provide as much support as I possibly can to the women that are in there, but I want to make sure that the content that I'm teaching you is kept in an independent place because you invested in yourself to get here, and I don't want to accidentally give that away for free. And so at the end of the day, if you're having trouble reaching me, if all else fails, you can email me at jamie@jamietaryn.com or jamietaryncoaching@gmail.com. Either will get to me. Please allow just a couple of hours, 24 hours to respond. Usually I'm pretty quick to respond in there or in the Facebook group. And so again, welcome to week 1, the study of you. Here we're going to first talk about dispelling myths and the myths of job searching. These are things that are holding you back, holding people back from getting the job they want because they're believing these overarching concepts that exist about looking for a job, which either are outdated or simply were never true. And it was just part of the essence of job searching that just got pushed down and down from person to person. And so I want to talk about kind of a bulk first of dispelling myths, the myths of job searching. The majority of jobs are posted online. Job hopping is bad. Staying at a job too long is bad. Any X factor is generally bad is probably not true. Cover letters are not that important. Cover letters are essential. You have to write a new cover letter and resume for every single job application. Simply not true. We need to strategically create cover letters and resumes so that they're applicable to the jobs that we want. And when you start applying only for jobs you want in a certain sector or a certain set of jobs, you won't need to rewrite them over and over because you have a much more focused job search. And finally, the most qualified person gets the job. Now, these are all myths that are different, that are not true for different reasons. The majority of jobs that are posted online is a bit outdated. It is something that was probably true 5-10 years ago, but now, while yes, the majority of jobs may get to the internet, many of them are filled before they even reach the internet because of legal policies, etc. Internal jobs have to be posted externally even when they know that they're going to be filled. And so we need strategies in place to take advantage of that instead of being held back by it. Generally speaking, you'll find out I'm not a big fan of any big sweeping statements. And job hopping is bad. Staying at a job too long is bad. Any X factor is bad. It's just not something I'm into. I don't think it's true. It's like every other stereotype. There's no such thing as a any one thing being definitively bad or challenging in a job search. If you're talking about maybe having a felony, let's have a different conversation. But anything that the average person is likely to experience in their life is never going to be generically and definitively bad or good for that matter. Cover letters and resumes play a tremendous role in job searching. You need to have them in tip-top shape. You need them to reflect your experiences and, more importantly, your accomplishments in a powerful way. But you definitely don't need to rewrite them and write them over and over. And so finally, to get back to this most qualified person gets a job, this is really what I think about it. You do not need experience to get a job. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me explain a bit more. There are so many people who see a job posting and see that it says 3 to 5 years experience is required for this position. And then they say, well, how will I ever get a job? Every job says I need experience. And then I can't get experience because I can't get the job because I need experience. And they talk themselves into this moment where it is literally impossible to get a job. It's just impossible. If it is true that you need experience to get a job and you need to have a job to get experience, how can you ever find a job? Now, the reality is you do need experience. You need a certain type of experience. You definitely don't need experience in the way that it's typically described in a job posting. Experience is having done something in the past and being able to repeat it again. And so you'll see that once we start looking at job postings, there will be many things that you've never done specifically, but there are tons of things you've done in other ways that are transferable to the job you want, and we'll understand more once we get there. But the reality is that experienced people are not who get jobs. Confident people get jobs. People who can explain their experience, who can explain their accomplishments in the language that the interviewer wants to hear, those are the people that get jobs. And so today we're going to do a lot of work. Some of it is going to seem very practical and some of it is going to seem a little bit woo-woo out there, but it's going to be reaching towards confidence and you being able to be the most absolute confident person you possibly can be in every circumstance moving forward. And so another thing that I think holds a lot of people back is the belief that someone else is in control. Recruiters, hiring managers, your education, your upbringing, your network, again, your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile are holding you back in your career. These feelings are very understandable, but they're limiting you, and they're not limiting you because they actually have influence. They're limiting you because you are the only thing that that is going to control your future. Now, recruiters and hiring managers absolutely have impact on your career, but it's up to you to explain to them why you are the best candidate possible for that role to minimize risk for them. Your education, your upbringing, your network, people talk all the time about how the world is overeducated. Well, it's up to you, again, to explain why your education matters or frankly doesn't matter. I know that I was raised and I've seen in my experience that the family you're born into can certainly have an impact on what you do in the future and who you know in the future. But you need to take responsibility in your life, and I will teach you the skills to grow a network for yourself so that you never have to worry about your past experiences or the family you were born into or the school that you went to. You're going to establish yourself as a leader in your field in the place that you decide to move in your career. And part of that is by updating your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile to accurately reflect exactly how amazing you are. And so I really want to challenge you and ask you a question. Are you ready to decide to be successful? Can you make a commitment to yourself right now that you are going to be successful? And I want you to do this in a tangible way. I want you to identify a way that you can literally write down on a sticky note, put it on your home screen, and write, I decide to be successful. I'm going to make the most of this opportunity, and I'm deciding that I will get an amazing new job. So hit pause on this video, take a moment to really figure out the best way for you to phrase for yourself what you're deciding, what your decision is right now. And one thing that you might be feeling and inclined to say in this process is that you're going to try to do something, or you're ready to do something, or you're planning to do something. So I'm going to try to make the time to do this. I'm trying to find a new job. Make sure that you're eliminating that hesitant language from your declaration. This is a declaration. I am going to make this happen. And technical difficulties today. And I want you to think about letting go of the excuses that may be in your way. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure the cleanest my apartment ever is when I have something major I need to do, because just about anything feels better than doing something scary. So you'll find yourself inclined to do things you never wanted to do before, like cleaning behind the couch or Swiffering the floors, as this example so clearly demonstrates. And I want you to be able to acknowledge when that is happening, what is happening for you in that moment that's getting in the way, that's really your brain and your body signifying to you, I'm a little bit afraid of this. And truthfully, anytime we're confronting something new and a change, you're gonna have that fear. You're gonna have the excuses. You're gonna have the reasons why you don't want to make the change. But you're showing up here. You've taken the step to impact your own life, to impact your future. And I really want you to take this moment to think about what your natural excuses are. What are the things that come up for you when you're trying to avoid something, so that as soon as they come up in the future, you can shut them down. So go ahead and hit pause and jot down what those typical excuses are for you. We're back to some questions for you. And this is where I want you to really take that decision to succeed and figure out why. Why did you decide that now is the right time for you to make a change? What is happening in your life right now? What about this moment is making you say something's gotta change? What is the experience you're having that makes this the right time? And by identifying why now is the right moment, we're going to continue to minimize those times that you're putting things off, because you always have something to go back to, the reason that you're doing this, the reason you're showing up right now. And it can be something as simple as you're just tired of being stuck where you are. It can be as complicated as changes happening in the workplace and you're not sure what your next steps are, or perhaps you're just needing to finally pursue something that is a long-term career instead of bouncing from job to job to job. But I want you to really take the time to write down why right now, what it is about this moment that makes this the moment you've decided to invest in you and your future. And part of that is going to be about your daily experience. So consider literally, what is your daily schedule? When do you wake up? When do you go to work? While you're at work, what are you doing? What are the tasks you're working on? Who are you working with? What is the physical space like? When you go home, are you allowed to decide when you leave on your own? Is that dependent on somebody else? Who are you working with while that's all going on? And then what do you do after work? Are you so exhausted by your work day that you just simply don't have time or energy to do anything else at all? Are you filling your life with as much social life as you can so that you can enhance your joy? And then once you write down the literal what your day looks like, I want you to think about what you're feeling and what your emotional experience is through all of that. Do you experience excitement when you go to work? Probably not if you're here. Do you experience depression, anxiety? Those are two similar but very different feelings. Are you experiencing exhaustion? Are you experiencing dread? How do you feel in every step of the way? And take a moment to hit pause and really get through all of these questions. Okay, so now you should be a lot more familiar with what your day-to-day looks like. And I know that that probably seems strange because you're living it every day. So of course you're already familiar with it. But we tend to fall into habits and patterns where the days just turn into weeks, turn into months, and all of a sudden we didn't even notice that it's gone from winter to spring to summer, right? And sometimes that's a seasonal issue, but a lot of the time it's just because we get trapped in our vicious cycle where we're just not experiencing things anymore. It's all kind of a blur of not so great. And so once you're at that point, you can answer a really important question. You've invested in yourselves. You've decided to take this step. Now, what do you want to gain from this program? And of course, the ultimate goal is a great new job and career path that you feel really passionate about. But I want you to think bigger than that and more than that. How are you going to walk away from this feeling successful? Now, I hope that you're one of my dream clients who has amazing success and finds a job 4-6 weeks into the program. Their last Q&A sessions are kind of just hanging out and we're all excited for them. But also, finding a job is very time consuming, not just in the searching sense, but in the, if you were to interview today for a job, there's a good chance it would take 4 to 8 weeks just to start that new role. So we need to find markers for success throughout this program. And I want to encourage you to think about what the biggest questions you have right now about job searching, about career path finding are, so that you can have them prepared for Q&As if those questions are not answered, and you can know that you're really learning the information you came here for, as opposed to just kind of letting the program pass you by. Because at the end of the day, we all seek one thing in life, and that is pretty much to win. We all want to win. So how do you win at this program? How are you successful? How do you walk away knowing you've made the perfect decision beyond finding a great new job and career path? Feel free to hit pause or come back and rewatch it later. Okay, cool. So now that you're prepared to succeed, now that you've made the decision to make this an amazing, amazing experience for yourself, and I'm committed to you to do that, I want to talk to you about the big three. Now, what I have found in talking with clients, in living life, your happiness depends on finding the right balance for you of the big three. And the big three are finance, work, and life. And now there's tons and tons of things that fall into this category that are part of these. And we're going to walk through how to find and understand what makes your version of life, what makes your version of work, what makes your version of finance, and where there's room to grow and where you're already really strong. And the way that we're going to do that is through a personal inventory. And a personal inventory looks something like, what is your dream job? What is your dream life? What are your strengths? What are your not so strengths or room for improvement? And what are your financial obligations and limitations? In short, it's what makes you you. And again, you spend a lot of time with you, so you probably feel like you know all of these things, but I really think that you'll find once we're getting into it that there's a lot that you're not confident enough or aware of enough to really put out there, and that's what so much of job searching is. And so let's think about what a dream job is. What are the components of a dream job? What makes a job ideal for you? And one thing that I really don't like about the idea of a dream job or finding your passion or finding your path in life is that life changes a lot. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, graduating college, to me, way too long later, life is very different. My expectations of a job are very different. The day I walked out of school, I would have worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for $35,000 and thought I'd won the lottery. Now that I have experience, now that I have different expectations of my life, things are different. In the future, I hope to have a family and live in a different location. Things will again be different. How can we possibly think that we can find something that's going to be perfect for all those stages and changes of life? During that time, a job will provide a different role to you, different things to you. In a job right now, what are you looking for? Are you looking for support and mentorship? Are you looking for a community? Are you somebody that really thrives in a space where there's social outings and team sports and everyone has lunch together? Or are you somebody who's really better off just kind of showing up, being productive, contributing, and cashing the paycheck? Are you someone that's looking for a stepping stone in your career where you need a foot in the door, but you need your foot in the right door? One thing that I find people making a mistake very often is that they think, as long as I get into this company, I'll find a way to where I want to be. And we need to make very strategic steps along that path to ensure that you're getting to the right place. And while I don't really feel that finding your purpose is a fantastic way to think about this, you may be at a point in your life where you need that from a job. You need to know that you're on something that is more a passion play than a career path. And for me, I'm going to define that as something that is far more about the day-to-day experience and contribution you're making to the world than the money that you're bringing in. So if you feel you're at a point where you're financially unconcerned or much less concerned and you're more concerned about the work that you're doing, you might be more in a place of finding your purpose. So to bring this back to the top, I want you to think about what will make up a dream job. What does the day look like when you're there? Who are you working with? What level of people? What is the work space like? Are you in a cube? Are you in an office? Are you in a big open workspace, startup style? What does that look like? Because I can promise you very few things in life. I say this a lot, so forgive me. There's not many guarantees, but the one thing I can guarantee is it's going to be very, very difficult to get something if you don't know what it is. So again, push pause, come back later, but I really want you to answer these questions. Next, if we're going to think about your dream job, you also have to think about your dream life. I am not the job before life coach. If there ever was one, I am all about finding what balance means for you. I've seen a lot of talk lately. There's no such thing as work-life balance. Everything is a blend. And of course that's true. But I think what happy people have, and people that are happy in their lives and professionally, people who are hitting those big three, is some sort of delineation of what that means for them. So for you, balance might be a complete blending of work and life, where during work you're able to take personal calls, and at home you're answering your work phone or answering emails. Just, it's all very fluid. Or you might be somebody who is totally focused on work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. And then the minute they're out the door, they're shutting their work stuff and they're not thinking about it till the next day, and everything in between. So you need to understand what an ideal life looks like as well. Simple things like, where are you living geographically, physically? What type of place are you living in? These all impact the way that you're going to live your life. I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and she was telling me how she used to live in a major city. And the biggest problem that she's facing right now is that she relocated to a pretty rural area, almost 2 hours outside of the city, when she had a family, and her whole life changed. And this is why she hates her job now. And so actually, the job itself may not be the heart of the issue. The physical location may be. And for her, if she had been more self-aware to know that commuting was going to put a stress on her life, and so her geographical location may have been something to consider in a greater way, she could have made different choices in her life potentially, or at least weighed those options. And I want you, and this is where the little bit of kind of woo-woo comes into play, I want you to literally close your eyes and imagine that future. Imagine a short future, just a few months down the road, where you're living maybe in exactly the same place, but your life is a little bit more aligned with what you want. What does it feel like to be in that space? What does it look like every day? And then maybe even more importantly, to understand that things are ever changing in our lives and that you right now are trying to both find a job that suits you and your current goals, as well as your long-term goals in a world that is ever changing. What is different about your life 3, 5, 10 years down the line, depending on where you are and what your future outlook kind of feel like, what it feels good for you to think about? Are you in a different stage in your life? What's different about it? What are you needing then that you maybe don't need now? And how are your expectations and needs from work different? I find that this experiment, this moment of thinking about what your dream life looks like, is incredibly valuable because it starts to put things in perspective. If you look forward and the only thing you can imagine in the future is being at home to pick up your child from the bus at 3 p.m. every single day, then you want to start thinking about jobs that maybe will give you that opportunity. Now, I don't think you should sacrifice anything or make entire life decisions based upon this vision, but if you are very tied to something down the road that may otherwise be impossible, for example, if you want to be home every day at 3 p.m., you might want to you may not want to pursue becoming a surgeon where something is very unlikely to happen. You may want to choose a different path, if that makes sense. Now, again, let that digest for you. We're going to keep moving forward, but I want you to think about this parallel world where you still have a dream life and a dream job. And it's not about, quote, having it all. Having it all is kind of a fictitious thing that is meaningless. It's just words that enter the ether and we're all chasing it. It's about having exactly what's going to make you happy in the right balance and proportions. And so the only way to start understanding that and translating all of this into a new job is to understand our strengths and room for growth, or not so strengths or weaknesses if you must. And I really want to focus on the language that you're using to think about this. I don't like using the term weaknesses. It sounds so fixed. It says right on the slide, growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And just very briefly, a growth mindset, people who have a growth mindset are people who are able to consistently understand that there is no such thing as failure. There are only chances to learn and get better. And I know that if you're not that person, that sounds totally wacky and crazy. And it really starts small with just understanding that if you, quote, fail, if you are unsuccessful, it does not make you as a person a failure or unsuccessful. And that's what fixed mindset people believe. If you're more of a fixed mindset person, you may have a fear or an innate belief that you are not capable of overcoming, or just that a failure or a misstep or a mistake in your life make you a mistake or a failure or a misstep. And I hope that's pretty clear. I think at the very least by now you're thinking, oh, I'm totally a growth mindset or I'm totally a fixed mindset person. And so hold on to that as you go through this process of understanding your strengths and not so strengths. And to help you with that, I want you to answer a couple of questions. The first one is, what are you better at than other people? And usually that makes people feel a little uncomfortable because we exist in a world where we have this sort of strange belief that everything nets to 100. So if you're better at someone else, they better at something or very good at something, it's almost as if we feel that someone else cannot be very good at that thing. But actually, work is a perfect example of where you need a lot of people that are better at other things than their colleagues, right? Like if you're all really good at analysis within Excel, but nobody can put that information together and present it in a coherent way, you can't be successful. So start to create a running list of what you are better at than other people. And to help you along in that list, start listening when people compliment you. We're so quick to reject compliments. Just think about it this way. When You go to the airport in a taxi and the taxi driver says, "Have a great trip." We usually say, "You too." They're not going on a trip. We just are so likely to deflect, to kind of bounce back whatever people say to us. If someone says you have a nice dress at a wedding, you tell them exactly the same thing instead of just receiving that compliment. And those are two like kind of superficial examples. But think about what in your life people have told you you're good at. Where have you gotten positive feedback at? Both personally and professionally, because a lot of the time we don't put ourselves in situations where we're actually doing the things we're really good at, and we're only doing those things in our personal time. So really consider what you're complimented on when you're thinking about these things. And also think about what you do voluntarily. So a lot of the time we do volunteer work because it does get us gain. So I don't want you to eliminate things that aren't providing you something as well, right? If you're volunteering at a soup kitchen, you're probably also feeling really good about it. But the things we do voluntarily are very telling. And I think that you can dial this back almost to school days, to even as far as elementary school. Were you the kid who was always writing creative stories when everyone else was playing? Were you fighting for art projects, or were you the leader of everyone, convincing them that it was time to play house and assigning roles and controlling where everybody sat? Think about the things that you are naturally inclined to do, both in the fun, like childhood sense, and also in the day-to-day. What do you do on the weekends? What do you sign up for? If there's an opportunity at work, if somebody needs to take charge of something or make sure something gets done, what are you inclined to lean into? Because most of the time we do the stuff we're good at voluntarily, right? We don't really sign up for stuff, most people, that we're really not so good at or we're really terrible at. Next, I want you to think about what you are most proud of in your life. And again, we have two ways of thinking about it. One is in the gold star kind of way. It stands out in your mind that you were the valedictorian of your high school, or you got a really good grade on an exam that was really hard. But I also encourage you to think of things in terms of projects. What have you made more efficient? What have you worked on that was made better by your contributions? What were projects that you had an opportunity to overcome in? And just kind of a little teaser, these are things that are going to be used once we start to go to interview prep, but they're also going to be showing in a similar way to what do you do voluntarily, what you're good at, and what you're inclined to have stand out in your mind. And now the last thing is kind of a funny one, but I'll explain what I mean. What are you good at, but kind of embarrassed by being good at it? And so just a personal story. At one point in my career, I had transitioned away from being pre-med, and I took the first job that anyone asked me, which was medical device sales. And I took this job being kind of embarrassed by the job to begin with. I mean, if you watch How I Met Your Mother, you can see the clips about medical device sales reps and pharmaceutical reps, and not exactly the greatest, most well-represented community in the world. And I was kind of good at it, but I really didn't want people to know I was good at it. For whatever reason, I had painted this story in my mind that sales was not for me. It was for some other kind of person. You know, I was educated. I had a degree in biology. I wasn't a salesperson. But in time, I was able to realize that, first of all, I was making this ridiculous generalization about what it means to be a salesperson. And I was able to change that entirely in my mind. But it's something that really stands out as something I was trying to push down. But if I had understood it in a more mature way to begin with and reframed it in a different way, which now I have now, I could really use it to my advantage instead of being a bit ashamed by it. So, as usual, pause, keep rolling, come back to this section. It's really what's going to help you start to understand what you're good at, what you're strong at. And we're going to have what I'm sure will be a very fun homework assignment, a skills assessment that I'll explain to you in depth that will really iron out all of this for you. We have to spend a minute or two thinking about where there's room for growth. And unfortunately, in my experience, we are very excellent at making a list of things we're not so good at. So I'm not going to bother you with questions about how to identify your weaknesses because we're usually pretty good at that all our own. But I do want you to ask yourself 2 questions once you've got that list going. Is this perceived weakness something that is limiting you? By which I mean, is it actually impacting your life? So take disorganization for an example. I know that I'm certainly not the most organized person in the world in a traditional sense, especially when I was younger. I very much operated in a state of organized chaos. And for me, it actually was mostly fine. I think that maybe for my parents when I was a kid or roommates when I was in school, it was more annoying to them than for me. But it really weighed me down. I was always trying, and frankly, I'm still kind of in this mindset where I'm trying to improve my organization. I always looking at the newest journal or calendar or app or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, this is something that I have spent far too much time worrying about how to improve because it does not limit me. It doesn't hold me back. It doesn't impact anything I'm doing. Now, if I was disorganized to the point where I couldn't meet deadlines or I was losing things that were meaningful, not your random pair of headphones, but you're losing your phone on a monthly basis, for example. Now, this is a kind of weakness that is more than perception, but it's something that you can work on and improve and probably should because it's limiting you. But if it's not something that's actually holding you back and it's just this residual weird feeling from, oh, my mom always said I was this, or my teachers always commented on that, or my ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, friend, whoever it is, mentioned this and it kind of nags at you, but at the end of the day, it was more their problem than yours. Let's kick it to the curb. Who cares? If it's not something that's holding you back, we really don't have to spend time working on it. And that brings me to the next thing. If it is something that you feel is limiting to you, is it something you can change? And now here's my example for that to get your brain rolling. As a female in ortho spine, where I once worked, you could argue I was being held back or at least perceived in a different way than some of the men in my field. But then you have to wonder if that is changeable. Now, I could change it by hopefully impacting their mindset and their mentality, but I can't change my gender for myself, right? We're born with whatever identity we have, and we have to live within that. And so even if you find that your weakness is real, it is truly impacting you and how you operate in the world, if you can't change it, please stop thinking about it. Stop investing time in it. Stop letting it rain on your parade because you are amazing for so many things. And if you're going to spend time letting something that isn't changeable, that is with outside of your control, then you're going to have a hell of a time overcoming it and finding a positive mindset. So those are the 2 things I want you to ask yourself every time something pops into your head. I'm not good at this. Does it matter? Maybe. Can it change it? Maybe. And if you can, institute a way to do so. And if you're not motivated enough to actually find a resolution, to find a way to make it better or change it, kick it to the curb. In case you're wondering, the moral of the story is let it go, right? I could have had Frozen up here and, had some awesome Disney stuff happening. But at the end of the day, you want to let stuff go that's holding you back if it's not within your control and it's not limiting you except for in your mindset. And so all of those things running through your minds are fundamental beliefs. They're statements and stories that you tell yourself about the world. And we have limiting beliefs and we have empowering beliefs. Just to kind of structure how these beliefs, the types of beliefs that may fall into this category. Some of them might be causal. I can accomplish this because of that. I can't do this because of that. Some of them are defining. I am a woman, which means that I am weak. I went to a non-elite university, which means I can't be a CEO one day. Defining statements that implicate a definition based upon the past. Possibility. I'll never do X. I can't do X. And finally, there are things based in identity. I am, I deserve, bad things always happen to me. And some sort of easier to digest examples of this that I think will just really dial in what I mean here. All men cheat. Fantastic example. Everyone has heard it. It's in movies, it's in daily life, it's thrown around casually. It's also absolutely ridiculous, of course. Not all men cheat. Some isolated group of terrible men and terrible women, for that matter, cheat. And they have come to serve to represent all the other crappy people in the world who also happen to cheat. And then we point to an entire gender and say that those people always cheat. So you can see that fundamental beliefs are these big sweeping statements that we live our lives by. But something like all men cheat may not impact us individually, but something like I'll never go to college could really hold a child back. I'm a woman, so I can only get so far in my career. And those are all limiting beliefs. They're the negative stories we tell ourselves. And usually at this point, people have things creeping into their minds like, oh, that thing my mom says every time I see her, or, oh, I always do say so-and-so happens to me. So this moment in time will happen over the next couple of days. If you let it, if you spend a few minutes tonight or tomorrow writing down all the stories you're telling yourself, money is the root of all evil, another good example. Or better yet, money goes to money. That is one that I think everyone has heard of. The rich get richer. There's a lot of them related to money, actually. And as I'm saying this, things may be popping into your mind, but I encourage you to spend a little bit of time jotting them down tonight and just carry a sheet of paper or a little notebook with you because they're going to keep coming up. And when they come up, I need you to change them from limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs. And you'll be amazed how ridiculous some of these things can look on paper. Something like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It sounds very empowering and like you can overcome anything. But there's probably a lot of steps in between, like your death due to this likely not so extreme situation, right? You know, you get broken up with by somebody, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That seems like an extreme response. So now that I've thrown a lot of ideas at you, we're going to keep moving on. But if you're really in the zone and you want to hit pause, you're more than welcome to. So the last piece of the big three is finance. And finance plays a lot of roles. It plays a role in our happiness, whether we like it or not. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it certainly can cause a lot of unhappiness. And in job searching, money is tantamount to everything. You know, we need to understand what our current financial state is in order to negotiate appropriately, in order to digest an offer appropriately. You might be amazed to hear that I speak with people all the time who do not know their current salary. They don't know what their average monthly spending is. And while I'd love to believe that we were all existing in a world where our finances were so strong that we had months worth of savings so we could know, okay, I have X months of savings in the bank, I must spend this much money every month. We just don't live in that world. We live in a world where people have student loan debt, where people have credit card debt. I just read today that credit card debt is at an ultimate high. And so when you're thinking about new jobs, you need to know what all of these things are. Maybe even more importantly to the job search and ultimately to negotiating, you need to have a very clear picture on what your benefits are. If you're in the United States, working in the United States, your company probably provides you with health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance. You may or may not have a 401k or a 403b, depending on your industry. Does it come with a match, without a match? Do you have gym membership paid for? Do you have phone paid for? There are so many different things that make up your financial health. And I think that this is a great opportunity when you're really diving into the rest of your life to look at this piece as well, both as a general inventory and as a tool that we will use as we get further into this program to understand how to best negotiate for everything that you need and want. And so congrats, we made it to the end of week 1. I hope that by now you are feeling empowered. Maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed as well, which is totally normal. There's a couple of homework assignments that I'm going to quickly run through right now. And I think you'll feel very guided once you get your workbook to be able to take action and get this stuff out of your head. And so I mentioned before a skills assessment. The way that I like to have my clients, have my students do a skills assessment is to make a task skills yes and no sheet. And so you'll see in the workbook, there's there's 2 pages actually that have 3 columns. The first one is tasks. What are the things that you're doing every day? Are you filing paperwork? Are you creating PowerPoint presentations? Are you updating websites and social media? And then the second column is the skills that those tasks represent. So if you are responsible for social media, the skill there is communications. If you're creating PowerPoint presentations to provide education, then your skill might be training or education management. If you're scheduling events, it's event planning, so on and so forth. And then the final column is a yes/no column or a percent of future column. So I want you there to identify whether you actually want to use those skills in your next job. And I encourage you to think beyond your current role, beyond your paid work. Think about those volunteer opportunities, get it all out there, and start to see where there is overlap, both in the skills column and in the yes/no column. And for the skills in particular, don't try to like hyper categorize, think big picture categories. Also part of your workbook is a core values worksheet. So you're going to go through and identify the 5 things that most make you you. There's pretty good directions on there, if I do say so. And but feel free to let me know if you have any questions about that. There's also a professional review worksheet. Really, all of this is just wrapping up our study of you. My goal for you, as in addition to the 16 personalities quiz, my goal for you by next week is to feel a renewed level of confidence and a recognition that you have done a lot in your life, even if you really don't feel like that right now. And so to commence, I want to end, I try to end each week with a quote that's something that stood out to me. And I saw this today. Life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to respond. And I think that if you carry this with you through the next week, through the stress of job searching, it's going to really impact your mindset, how you see the world, and how you begin and continue to cultivate your growth mindset. So again, you know where to find me. Post any questions that you have in the Women's Career Blueprint Facebook group. I will talk to you soon. Thursday, 7:30 is our Q&A call. Let me know if anything comes up. Don't let yourself get bogged down if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure of what to do. Find me. Have a great evening, morning, wherever you are, and we'll talk soon.